This is the Friday Night Tailgate on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM, as well as the free iHeartRadio app. Thank you for tuning in. However you may be tuning in, you want to get in touch with the show, you can on Twitter at WOFX980, at ZachFS980. That's ZACHFS980. Feel free to give us a follow. We'll follow you back. Like us on Facebook at Fox Sports 980, at Zach Harris Sports. Also, you want to call into the show today. Want to give a special thank you to Matt Callahan, the general manager of the Tri-City Valley Cats, for making some time for me today. They got a big matchup tonight against one of their rivals, and they got a fireworks show. So Matt Callahan always has his hands full, always does a great job entertaining the fans and putting together an excellent team. They have had 99 players go from the Joe, where they play, to the show. That's right, Major League Baseball. So, keep doing the hard work that you guys are doing over there. We really do appreciate you bringing the tremendous amount of talent that you have through the Capital Region. This is the Friday Night Tailgate on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. I got to throw some water on y'all because what I watched last night in a dismantling fourth quarter of the Golden State Warriors in the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, y'all out there acting like some Stephen A. Smiths. And for those of you that don't know, Stephen A. Smith, likes to say some arrogant, pompous, sometimes over-the-top statements to kind of get some attention. And I'm not saying you're saying it to get attention. Maybe you do believe it, but Game 1 is not indicative of how this series is going to go. This is not the Celtics manhandling the Golden State Warriors in quarter 4, where they held the Golden State Warriors to less than 20 points while they dropped 40. It's not going to be a series of the Boston Celtics continue to dominate physically and mentally. That's not how this is going to work. We all know the Boston Celtics are a good squad. They have been on one of the hottest streaks since early in the season when they lost to the New York Knicks on a buzzer beater by R.J. Barrett, and they were 16-19 on the season. Since then, they have turned it around. Since Marcus Smart seemed to have lost the locker room and the confidence of other players, calling out Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, telling them that they don't pass and that they refuse to pass the ball. Since Ime Udoka has been getting listened to more and players are buying in, they have been one of the hottest teams in the league since then, since their 16-19 start. And then when they dismantled the Brooklyn Nets in the very first round, the only team to sweep an opponent in the whole entire playoffs. I tried to tell you, I said, as much as I don't think the Nets should have got swept, the Celtics are that good. Now, maybe not 4-0 over the Brooklyn Nets good, which they were able to do by putting pressure on Kevin Durant and pressure on Kyrie Irving and forcing other players to act and step up. And we've seen Bruce Brown step up, but outside of that, really, Seth Curry was inconsistent, as well as many others that were playing roles on that Nets team. Not to mention the fact that even though it was due to Kyrie Irving's own demise, they didn't have as much chemistry as the Boston Celtics did, because you got to think that core has been there for a long time. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. That is a core that has been built around for numerous years. They have the connection. They have the flow. They know how to play together. Now, a lot of people questioned whether the Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum could play together. That clearly has been answered this season and thus far in this postseason. And one of the things that I like is Jaylen Brown. I truly believe he understands that this is Jason Tatum's team, but at times it is time for Jaylen Brown to do what Jaylen Brown does and take over games. And what you saw last night, where he scored 10 points in the fourth quarter, and that he was that consistent guy throughout the whole game. Now, I know a lot of people want to overreact because the Golden State Warriors held a double-digit lead and then ended up losing by double digits. The first time in NBA Finals history that that's happened, where a team entered the fourth quarter down by double digits and then ended up winning by double digits. It's also the first time in NBA history that as many three-pointers were hit between these two teams in NBA Finals history. It's also NBA Finals history. Steph Curry hitting 6 threes in the first quarter. So there was a lot of explosion, fireworks going on, and a lot of people overreacting, saying, where are those Warriors in 4, Warriors in 5 guys? Obviously, I thought this is a game where I thought this was a series where the Warriors were going to take it in 6, because I'm not going to discredit what the Celtics have been able to do this year and who they've been able to run through. But let's be honest. Game 1 is not who the Boston Celtics are. They are not going to go 15 of 22 in the fourth quarter every single game of the series. They are not going to hit 9 out of 12 threes in one single quarter, let alone the fourth quarter again. They are not going to have guys like Peyton Pritchard hit 2 out of 3 three-pointers, and 2 of those coming in the fourth quarter. They're not going to have, and Derek White, no disrespect to Derek White. He's done a tremendous job going from a D2 athlete, coming through the ranks and finally finding his way onto the Boston Celtics through a trade and been tremendous since. But he's not going to go 5 of 8 from three-point range. You're not going to have Marcus Smart go 4 of 7 and Al Horford 6 of 8 from downtown. That's not going to happen again. And I'm going to tell you right now, that this is going to be a series that goes 6, maybe 7 games. But ultimately, Golden State's going to learn how to adjust, because as much as we want to overreact, I watched that fourth quarter, then I rewatched it, and then I rewatched it again today. While I was working, I was able to watch that fourth quarter 3 different times. In 3 different times, you know what I noticed the most? Is they left some wide open role players. You saw Peyton Pritchard wide open. You saw Al Horford wide open. You saw them letting Marcus Smart chuck up threes. You saw them letting Daniel Theis chuck up a 3. His only 3 of the whole entire game in the fourth quarter, knocks it down. It was just that kind of quarter for the Boston Celtics. And as much as I don't want to discredit the Boston Celtics, because absolutely they took advantage of the open shots. They hit the open shots. They were 15 of 22 in the fourth quarter, 9 of 12 from deep. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, Steph Curry, he's not going to drop 21 points in one quarter again in the first quarter. I don't see that foreshadowing. But you take a look at Steph Curry, 34 points, a couple of rebounds, couple of assists, an efficient 12 of 25 shooting. You can count on that roughly every single night. Now, there might be nights where, he goes 4 of 10 from downtown, or there might be nights where he goes 7 of 15 from downtown. But to try to understand and think that the Boston Celtics are going to be able to do what they did in game 1 in the fourth quarter is just not believable. Now, what I take away most out of all of this, and I know you guys are all astounded with the fourth quarter, I absolutely love what the Boston Celtics were able to do in the first quarter, the second quarter, and then a little bit in the third quarter. And what I mean by that is you had an abundance of Curry flurry in the first quarter. Steph Curry knocked down 6 shots. In any other team besides the Boston Celtics, this might look like a runaway in the first quarter. If you got a guy like Steph Curry that's heating up and can't miss, and no matter if he's heat checking or not, he's knocking it down, it's very difficult. But what they did is they remained calm. They took their shots. They took their patience. They settled for the correct shot and didn't go awry from the plan. And every time it looked like the Golden State Warriors were going to pull away in the first quarter or early second quarter, the Celtics had an answer. The Celtics were down by 6. They were down by 4. They were down by 10. They're down by 6. No matter what, they never let the game get out of hand. And then the third quarter, where the Golden State Warriors put up 38 points, always outscoring their opponents. One of the things, the Boston Celtics have been one of the worst teams in the postseason in the third quarter, and the Golden State Warriors have been one of the best teams in the third quarter, not only in postseason, but over the last handful of years since they've had Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. For the Boston Celtics to put up 24 points and be outscored by 14 in a third quarter is something that I don't think gets talked about enough. This game could have been a runaway in the third quarter. This could have been a Warriors blowout. And the relentlessness of the Boston Celtics kept this a series. And I think the Golden State Warriors understand the mentality that they have to take when it comes to a team like the Boston Celtics, who are going to continue coming. And now I know what you're sitting there saying. It's the NBA Finals. Of course they're going to give it their all every single minute, every single play, blah, blah, blah. Not like the way that the Boston Celtics do. They grind it out. They know if I could just get you 2 stops and I get 2 buckets, next thing you know, I just cut the lead by 4. They understand it. They're patient about it. And they've done a great job at putting it into motion. We've seen it against the Miami Heat. We've seen it against the other teams that they faced in the playoffs. The Nets, every time the Nets went on a run, and I know they swept the Nets, but every time the Nets went on a run, the Celtics had an answer. They have answered every single time that there has been a question. That's my biggest takeaway, is the fact that they have not, in game 1, let the Golden State Warriors roll away, when they very well could have rolled over. When that first quarter could have very well been 32-20 or 32-16, and instead it was 32-28. Or the fourth quarter when it could have been the third quarter when it could have been 38-15 or whatever, where you typically see how much a Golden State Warriors team dominates you in the third quarter. And they hung in tough. And when you're in a league like the NBA, where 3-pointers are a must, a 14-point lead, as much as we want to say that's a big lead, that's only a handful of shots. You hit 4 threes, and you're only down by 2. And when you got a defensive presence team like the Celtics, they're going to be able to get stops and get timely buckets to continue to slowly break down that lead. And that's what you saw. And then in the fourth quarter, the Golden State Warriors had multiple protections break down, wide open Al Horford in the most crucial time of the game. And we've all seen the clip where Steve Kerr goes, all right, we're down by 3 at home. We got them right where we want them. We just get a stop. This is a crucial part of the game. You get a stop. We get a bucket. We're right where we want them. And what happens? Draymond Green, bad pass, turns it over. They're running back down the court. Al Horford trailing, left wide open, top of the key, 3-pointer. It's good. Next thing you know, that 3-point deficit just became a 6-point deficit, and they were not able to recover. That was my takeaway, is that they had defensive lapses in the fourth quarter, the Golden State Warriors. So this is going to be, like any series, a game of adjustments. How often are you going to see Steve Kerr get outcoached like he did in the fourth quarter? How often are you going to see Draymond Green let his presence on the defensive side of the ball get lost? It's going to come down to which one of these teams' role players can play the best. And in game 1, hats off to the Boston Celtics, because their role players did an outstanding job. You got 21 points from Derek White. You got 26 points from Al Horford. And if you can get 18 points from Marcus Smart, that's a big win right there. That's a big win on an efficient 7 of 11 from the field and 4 of 7 from deep. That's not Marcus Smart's game. So it's all going to come down to which role players can perform at a higher level. And hats off. Boston Celtics, game 1, they nailed it. But I'm not going to say this is a walk away for the Boston Celtics. This series is far from over. I absolutely believe 100% that the Golden State Warriors are going to have a big comeback. And I wouldn't be so surprised if after game 3, we're looking at the Golden State Warriors up 2-1. I'm not going to go ahead and guarantee it, but I'm going to tell you, they're going to see their defensive lapses and realize, shout out to Boston Celtics for taking advantage of our defensive lapses, but there's nothing that we can't stop. We were able to do what we wanted to do for the first 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, we lost ourselves, and shout out to the Celtics for taking advantage. But that's on us. That onus is on us. That's a fixable, correctable mistake. And when they go ahead and view that fourth quarter and they see what I saw those 3 times I watched it today, they're going to see the same thing. They're going to see the defensive lapses, the Peyton Pritchard's wide open a couple of times, the Al Horford wide open a couple of times, the Derek White wide open a couple of times. As much as we want to elevate the Celtics and how great they did, they just were able to knock down and take advantage of wide open shots. You're not going to go 9 of 12 from deep all the time. And you're not going to be open 12 times every fourth quarter. This series is far from over, and I feel Golden State will have an answer in game 2. And like I said, I wouldn't be too surprised if after game 3, we're looking at a 2-1 Golden State Warriors lead.